what I would say to the painter that hasn't painted in a while but knows they need to start. What are they so afraid of that they can't just put the brush to the canvas? Just start, right? Just start. Just start. Whether you're painting 10 minutes or it ends up being 10 hours, you just have to start, right? What is that fear that's getting in the way of you jumping into your next big goal?
This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional mental health advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Consult a qualified professional for your needs. Views expressed are those of the hosts and guests and not necessarily those of Meet Your Mental Helper Podcast LLC or its affiliates. We are not responsible for actions taken based on this content.
Hi, I'm James Weisbecker. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Ohio, Texas, Virginia, and Delaware. I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast because I found that there were a lot of podcasts with people who are either celebrities or talking about knowledge they've heard from celebrities. When I went to trainings, and I still go to trainings, and met fellow colleagues, I realized that the everyday therapists, counselors, coaches, people that really put in the work and effort to learn and to share that knowledge, that healing knowledge with clients, knew so much more. And I thought it's a shame they don't have a voice. It's a shame that people can't learn about who's actually in their community making a difference. And that's why I started the Meet Your Mental Helper podcast. Let's meet today's guest on Meet Your Mental Helper. And welcome to Meet Your Mental Helper. Today I'm joined by C.W. Hawley, founder of Let's Talk Time and author of Let's Talk Time, Own Your Own Hours, Rule Your Life. CW is a time strategy coach who helps people move from time survival to time traction by creating customized time strategies, stronger goal-setting habits, and a healthier relationship with time. Welcome, CW.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, time is something we all struggle with. When you say someone is living in time survival instead of time traction, what does that look like in real life?
Yeah, people kind of are taken aback when I make the comparison of time survival to time management, because if you think about traditional learning institutions, you were most likely talked at about time management or talked to about time management, but not ever taught how to manage your time. So as adults, there's this whole generation that has grown up thinking that time management is a positive thing. And at the end of the day, we're all managing our time. We're just, some of us are not doing it well, right? And
Uh-huh.
so moving from time survival, which in my brain equals time management, whether you're doing it great or not so great, right?
Uh-huh.
Moving from that mindset to time traction, where you can actually start gaining valuable experience, gaining ways to be more impactful towards other people by goal setting along your timeline, right? So the strategy changes things. We're not just surviving or trying to manage or trying to direct. We're being more intentional with our goal setting that creates traction. So I compare that to the difference between running or walking on a treadmill compared to hiking up Mount Everest, right? We're really,
Uh-huh.
really reaching for something when we're strategizing.
Gotcha. So, I've never heard of it framed that way. That's really interesting because I think, the most we get out of school is um, set some goals, and then you have a calendar with each hour of the day, and then you're supposed to slot those in, and
Right.
you're on your way.
Yeah. And that's basically the education that people have gotten. And then if you kind of roll over into the corporate world, the language and introduction of the SMART goal comes into play. And, I still talk to adults in corporate America who don't know how to set, you know, quote unquote, a SMART goal, right? Um, and then I feel like people kind of think that if they're setting those SMART goals, that that's the end of the story, right? And when really that theory of setting a SMART goal, SMART, is to validate if the goal is smart. It doesn't help with execution or taking action towards that goal.
When you, say SMART goal, what are you is that an acronym or are you is it
Yeah,
something
so
different?
SMART, I did not
Mhm.
come up with it, and it's great. Again, it's a great acronym that validates if the goal is actually smart to continue, right? So
Mhm.
the goal has to be specific,
Right.
measurable, attainable, relative to, your other goals, and then there's got to be a timeline. So the SMART goal helps you walk through that acronym of setting the goal, but the achievement process is where most people miss the boat.
And how is that usually the case?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of fear naturally in that kind of lives in the valley between strategy and execution. So you can strategize, you can plan, you can identify all the needle movers it will take to get you to this goal. You can identify, specific milestones that will help you work towards a goal, right? The goal that you're choosing to use your time on. Um, but, if you're just setting the goal, that's all you're doing. You're strategizing, you're setting it, you're planning it. But that fear, again, that lives in the valley between strategy and execution, that's where your dreams go to die in that
Mhm.
valley. So you've got to execute. And there's and actually a goal setting framework that I use in my with my coaching clients, and it's called ESTHER, and I use that as an acronym. So we do set smart goals within that framework, but the first thing we do is we eliminate anything that could get in your way, whether that's negative thoughts, habits, people in your life, possibly. Maybe it's the environment in which you're setting your goals, or you're trying to work on accomplishing those goals. What do you have to eliminate those distractions first before you even start your goal setting journey?
Yeah, I love that. That's a great way to look at it. So
Yeah.
how did you become interested in helping people with their relationship to time?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually come from the corporate world. I'm a nurse by trade, but I started off initially nursing in long term care, and grew into management rather quickly. Then I moved toward adult senior living, right? So moved from nursing to operations, and so once in my nursing role throughout my career, I've been in charge of people. I've led people, right? And
Mhm.
then when I got to do that on a higher scale, the more and more I noticed adults either showing up late consistently, they had a bad habit and a pattern, or maybe they are at work on time. It's not just about being late, right? I mean, I'm a time strategist, and I've been late to things, right?
Mhm.
That's part of life sometimes. But when you have maybe a shift of tasks that you have to get through and people you have to care for, the more and more I notice that the higher ranking things, the things that I would put more value into, would be uh, pushed to the end of the shift, therefore possibly running out of time. And I kept noticing this habit over and over about how people were spending not just their years and their months, but down to the 30-minute after your break time, or maybe it's the transition phase when you're coming into work. If you're coming into work and then you're taking 20 minutes to brush your hair, there's a time issue there, there's a priority issue there. And so not only on that side, but then also the people who were leading me, the people that I saw that were either growing or more successful in a traditional um, you know, sake, right? How they were spending their time. And were they spending their time on, vague, overreaching projects? Were they very specific with their goals to be completed within a certain amount of time? Were they really regimented with a morning routine, an evening routine, that sort of thing? Were they really good at separating, work and play? Right. Those things were important to me as I went on to study how specific people were, again, not only using their minutes and their hours, but did that lead to impactful momentum, right? And it
Mhm.
did.
So when people say, "I just don't have enough time," or there's not enough hours at the end of the day. What are the kinds of things that you see? I would pick an obvious one, social media maybe or something, but what are a lot of the things that are draining people's batteries
Yeah.
unnecessarily?
Yeah, yeah. So, kind of a two-part question, right? So, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear somebody say, I don't have time to do this. I don't have, time. I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't have time. I've always wanted to do that. It's an excuse. It's one of those things where if you continue to use time as an excuse, you're never going to create more. Right. And so that kind of
Mhm.
goes back to that time framework. And we talked a little bit about how I talk about your relationship with time, but I think it's important to go back to just as if I were to say the name of an ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, spouse, whatever, people out there can relate that to, they're an ex for a reason. You might have some type of toxic feeling come up, right? Or memory of something possibly toxic, whether it was mild or big, right? And just like that relationship with your ex, we're all in a relationship with time. And so if you're someone who says, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that, that just throws up those red flags. Uh-oh, you're using as an excuse. It's not a healthy relationship. And that moves to asking yourself, what type of relationship do I have with time? Do I have an urgency, let's get everything done relationship because I'm afraid my minutes are going to be assigned somewhere else? Am I so used to working with someone who micromanages, that sort of thing, that maybe I see time more as a privilege and not something that I can actually direct, right? So it's about finding out what your current relationship with to time is, and then just like a typical relationship, you can heal that relationship with time, and you can heal that by picking up some of these healthier habits when you're framing. Do I have enough time in my head, right? So those are the first time things I kind of think of when somebody says, "Hey, I don't have enough time." It's about priorities and your choice, right? And
Mhm.
maybe somebody doesn't have enough time for a specific thing, then they need to take it off their list and let's direct our minutes to the things that they want to be most impactful, right?
Yeah, I like the way you frame that, because I've never thought of it as a relationship, right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
so and then if it's analogous to regular relationships, you have to obviously spend some time in the relationship. You have to feed the relationship. Um, and I'm thinking if what you're talking about is prioritizing what things you're going to feed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the weight of, I'll kind of start simple. What's your biggest dream, right? If you think, you can get so many answers to that. Well, my biggest dream is to go to Italy on my honeymoon. Okay, well, are you engaged, right? Like going back and seeing what the kind of the root um block is, right? Is this just a dream for someday? Is this something that you're working on actively? Okay, maybe my dream is to speak on stage at a certain conference. Well, let's reverse engineer that, right? Let's make
Mhm.
sure we're matching your daily energy to the amount of time you have to work on your goal, right? And then execute and move forward. So kind of going through that ESTHER acronym with the goal setting, we do eliminate, we do set, we do target and timeline, we do help and hardship, meaning whatever goal I'm working towards, it could be difficult, it could be hard, so we're gonna acknowledge that up front, and then acknowledge any help that we may may need before we even start working on our goal, right? So, we're not gonna wait until I'm stuck to find somebody to ask. I'm gonna name my mentor, name my, accountability partner before we even jump into the goal, right? So that's H. That, second, E is for execution, right? You've got to execute and you've got to evaluate along the way. And then you've got R, when that goal is accomplished, you're going to rest and review. And people
Mhm.
tend to get stuck on that execution and evaluation. I think we talked about that a little bit, but the execution part is um, so huge because if you get, halfway through again and stop, it's not gonna work. And the evaluation, people get that mixed up with, hey, I'm gonna evaluate how things went. No, evaluate along the way, right? Every
Mhm.
week you're looking at your goal. How far are you along with your goal? What percentage have you completed instead of, hey, I'm working towards this and I don't have a timeline. But it's a big deal.
Mhm. So, um, f on the execution side, which connects a lot with procrastination,
Hmm.
um, what do you do with people who I'm kinda looking at this from therapy perspective. Sometimes people are saying they want something, but then that change is super scary. If I actually
Yeah.
become that speaker,
Yeah.
that's terrifying because I'll be found out or
Right.
the
Yeah.
imposter
Like imposter
syndrome stuff.
syndrome.
So
Yeah.
how do you work with people that are kind of saying, "Oh yeah, I want to be a speaker someday,"
Yeah. Yeah.
but then all these things came up this week, so
Hmm.
I didn't do this, I didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, listen, coaching, one on one coaching is so impeccably useful because it's almost like a professional accountability partner, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's okay that somebody has a bad week. It's okay that, if you're actively working towards a goal and, you plan to use 4 hours on something and those 4 hours unfortunately got hijacked with something you couldn't, help, you just have to back at it the next day, right? And I've been in the same place. And to be honest, that's one of the reasons why I'm in such a different goal setting place in my life now is because I was the queen of writing something down and wanting to do something, maybe even doing some needle movers towards it, but then either get bored, distracted, overwhelmed with, other things in my life, and we stop and I find it in a notebook 3 years later, right? That's
Hmm.
the sole reason that we started this time strategy firm because at some point in my life, well, it was 2018, I said, no more, right? No more. Um, we're gonna go after these goals hard, and we're gonna often, um, be celebrating when we've accomplished them. And my team and I have been so blessed by getting most of our goals accomplished for this year already.
Hmm.
But what I would say to an audience member getting to that frustrated spot of, I just didn't have time. I would always say reevaluate because your goals can change, right? It depends on the season of life, where you're if you're in a relationship, if you're in growing your career mode, are you working on something on the side or something to monetize to be your full-time income? There's so many aspects of this. And this is why I talk about individual time strategies because not everything works for everyone. I stand definitely beside my or behind my goal setting strategy when it comes to Esther. But just like in the exercise world or the fitness world, health and wellness world, getting up at 5 a.m., drinking green shake, running 2 miles, coming back and doing Pilates, that's not for everyone, right?
Right.
And
Hmm.
so just like that, everybody can't expect to, oh, I'm going to get up and I'm going to work on my goals for 2 hours every morning. It doesn't work for everyone. And so if we continue to kind of paint or copy and paste routines from other people, you know, that weren't originally meant for us to begin with. So that's why it's so important to number one, evaluate your relationship with time. And I would go back to that coaching client and say, I know you keep saying this is what you want to do, but tell
Hmm.
me why. Like, let's find out why you want to do this because the outcome, your absolute outcome may be something totally different than what you're initially thinking now because goals change and they
Yeah.
and they change quickly.
So it's not a one size fits all. It's
No,
you
no,
kind of
absolutely
tailor it
not.
to
Yeah.
everyone's life situation.
Yeah, especially in the one-on-one coaching, which again, I still do. However, I want my material to be seen by a broader audience. So I'm doing one-to-many as well. And there are so many specific things that everyone could be a part of, but at the end of the day, you just have to choose what works best for you, your schedule, your body. So I do have lots of blanket time strategies. And then the whole issue is in a couple weeks after coaching starts, you've identified what type of relationship you have with time, how we can heal from whatever's going on. Or if you have a healthy relationship with time now, how can we just work on it and make it better, right?
Hmm.
And so that's one of the things I would always go back and do is just make make sure they reevaluate that relationship with time so they know whatever they're working toward is what they value most, and it changes.
I also run into, and this is maybe common, but a lot of guilt. So a lot of people will say, I get home from work and I'm tired, but I know I should be practicing my clarinet because I'm I want to be in a band, or I know I should be painting.
Yeah,
I'm an artist, but I haven't painted, or I know I should be doing this, this, that, and the other thing. And sometimes based on what I know of their jobs, they're very demanding jobs. So
yeah,
it's like you might need the evening to relax.
yeah,
You might need to veg, but how do you deal with
yeah.
that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the big things that I say, and this obviously did not initially come from me, but I'm a believer that momentum beats motivation. Right. So there was a couple scenarios. You mentioned the clarinet, which somebody's playing the clarinet. If they want to really be in a band, they would want to be practicing, but sometimes things are just overwhelming. Right. So
Right.
that's a little bit different than the one that you said, you said something about, I want to do this, but I wanted to
Painting,
be a
painting.
painter, but I haven't painted. That is getting over your initial no, right? So there are 2 scenarios. One knows that they should be doing something because they've already shown that they can do it, but they've got to continue. So are we worried about, a lack of passion during the moment, lack of motivation during the moment? We've got to talk about momentum. So that means doing something every single day, right? So maybe if the clarinet, person is, I'm trying to say it, clarinetist? No,
I don't
clarin
know.
who knows? But they know they should be doing something, and so they've got to, do something every day. So, like, if they don't wanna practice one day, maybe it's just reading the music that day that they feel especially overwhelmed, but it's doing something. Never miss a day you don't do something, even if that is an intentional rest day. If you've planned to rest, or even if you didn't plan to rest and your body needs it, switch it on your calendar. Rest today and then get back at it. You just have to do something each day. And so what I would say to the painter that hasn't painted in a while but knows they need to start, what are they so afraid of that they can't just put the brush to the canvas? Just start, right?
Mhm.
Just start. Just start. Whether you're painting 10 minutes or it ends up being 10 hours. You just have to start, right? What is that fear that's getting in the way of you jumping into your next big goal?
Yeah. I noticed that my wife is a published author, but she has pushed me to writing, and I enjoy creative writing. But there's some days after a long day I'll think I can't work on this project,
Yeah.
and I'll just tell myself I'll do one paragraph.
Mhm.
I'll just do one
Yes.
paragraph. It usually ends up being a page and a half. But
Yeah.
as soon as the momentum starts, and then
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, it
Yeah.
never is just one paragraph. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever done just one paragraph.
Right, right. Well, and when I'm talking to people about books, like, write 250 words a day. 250 words are not that many. That's not that many words, right?
Yeah.
And then what happens when you start writing, those creative juices start flowing? And like you said, it's usually page and a half, couple pages, right? So, and projects like that, I never reread my stuff. I never reread it. I just keep going and I keep adding to it. And then at the end, like when I've got the bulk, I'll go back and start rereading and making edits. But yeah, I mean, that's traction, doing something every single day. Even if you're overwhelmed, if that intentional rest day is needed, then that's traction in itself because your body has to reset.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your book. I know you have a book out.
Yeah, I do. So I actually have 2, but this is my most recent book, Let's Talk Time, Own Your Hours, Rule Your Life. It's available on Amazon. And what I love about this book is it's really a go to guide about specific things. It talks about my story and my testimony and the way my relationship with time changed due to a diagnosis that I had in 2018. And then a couple of other things that have happened that have really made me think, wow, time is absolutely not guaranteed, which we all know, but we typically know in theory. It doesn't relate to us until it's happening to us or somebody right around us, right? That
Hmm.
that we forget that just like a toxic relationship, could have neglected time, abused time, those types of things, right? So it's one of those books where if you want to read about time with God, you flip that chapter. Time with friends, you flip to that chapter. But it does really nicely walk you through the TIME framework about your relationship with time. It does talk a little bit about goal setting, and one of the biggest things I love about this book is in the back, it actually has a 30-day time and energy audit, so you can just focus in on those micro hours that you are spending, maybe doing some things that are not as impactful as you think, and you've got an opportunity to kind of grade yourself on that to see if you're really, starting to make traction, or are we still surviving, right? We want to move
Exactly.
into that time strategy.
And I will also link all of your information at the bottom of this podcast, including your book titles and so forth. So if you guys want to find CW, we'll have all that contact information available.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And CW, you mentioned you have a team. Are you how does that work? Are you out there teaching other people to teach this, or what are you
Yeah,
talking?
so I will say that Let's Talk Time, my company started out as one-on-one coaching. We still do that, but we are actually going into businesses with our C-suite leaders and showing them how just with little tweaks to either their or their main leadership's time and what that time is focused on, that we can create positive movement in margin, traction with projects. Maybe their pain points have been, extending their revenue streams, those sort of things. We go in and take the time to listen to where they're struggling, right? Do time
Mm-hmm.
audits on all those major departments, and go through and really focus on making those processes lean, increasing communication, all by the way that they're using their individual time. So yeah, so that's the time strategy. We've got human resources expert, FP&A, all accounting, finance, operations. We even have a clinical branch as well.
Great.
Yeah.
And so are you doing a lot of work with corporate? I know you came from healthcare, or do you do stuff with healthcare too?
Yep.
Or
So we've done some healthcare gigs. We're mostly kind of our niche right now are insurance agencies, law firms, real estate portfolios, any of that C-suite leadership, whether you're a W-2 or 1099, working on those leadership skills with working with the C-suite leadership teams, and how they roll out specific time strategies for their teams as well. So we've got some really, really positive results over the last couple of months with that, and continuing to lean into that space a lot more.
good. And used there was a term compounding time debt. Um,
Yeah.
what explain a little bit like you use that phrase compounding time debt. What does that mean and how does it build up?
Yeah, yeah. So compounding time debt is happening to all of us. We can't outrun it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I compare time debt to financial debt. So if you think about financial debt, you go into financial debt when you have more, when you're spending more money than you have. Maybe it's a credit card debt and you're going to pay that back, or maybe it's maybe it's a necessary debt where have a mortgage, you're building credit, that sort of thing. But either way, when you go into debt, financial debt, you can work your way out of financial debt, right? You can get a side hustle, you can get a promotion, you can, negotiate terms, those types of things. Either, however way you choose to do that, you can get out of debt, right? But when it comes to time debt, you're losing time every day and you don't get it back. So there's no way to make up for that debt, right? And when I say it's compounding, the more time we waste on things that are not impacting our lives, others' lives more positively, that debt continues to compound. Now, people, when I start talking about time, they're like, "Oh, maybe are you the time Nazi? Do you believe that every, just like Dave Ramsey believes every dollar should have a title or a place to go? Do you believe every
Right.
minute has a place for? Well, yes, but I'm also one who wants to have a little fun. And, I need an evening to relax or a weekend to get away. So my whole point is we want to make sure we're using our time in our career path or our, maybe you're a stay-at-home mom. That time that are on your own during the day and you don't necessarily have that support until later on in the evening. How are you impactfully using those hours so when the rest time comes or when the weekend comes, you can fully check out, right? So it is about an integration. That's one of the reasons I kind of go back to that work-life balance scenario. I don't love that because if you think about balance, usually if you're balancing something, it's got to be 50-50. I don't want to work 50% of my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I want
Mm-hmm.
to direct my hours to be more impactful in a shorter amount of time so I can create other memories doing other things as well.
What about people who absolutely love what they do and spending that extra time at a job, at work? I sometimes they feel guilty because everyone else is telling them all you do is work,
Yeah.
but it
Yeah.
might be something that really is energizing to them.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a
I think
foreign
that's fair.
thing, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think again, it does have to do with the season of your life. I think first of all, if somebody loves that their job that's a blessing in itself. And so I just think even if you love it and it's what you're called to do, you also have to remember there might be other people in your life, right? And so you have to, show some awareness around the other people that are there working with you, whether it's a team or, your partner at home or, your kids at home. I think you have to remember there's other people in the picture. And part of, you know, the human experience is we have to accommodate and we have to, make accommodations for other people. So I think, again, if you're lucky enough to love exactly what you're doing, keep doing it. And the people that are, supporting you, should understand that. However, there's got to be some type of integration so you're not losing yourself in the role. I think that's the big part is the integration between real life and corporate life or whatever you're building. There has to be some type of integration.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, so I was gonna ask you a question about healing your relationship with time. We were talking about comparing it to a relationship that was
Mhm.
maybe abusive, neglectful, but how, because a lot of people go, well, I've already wasted this much time.
Yeah.
So, and it's
Sure.
not forward thinking, it's not forward, it's
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
growth mindset, but it's just, well,
Sure.
so what do you say about healing that
Yeah.
relationship?
Yeah. I think I do not want to pretend to be a relationship expert at all, right? But I know that if you're in a toxic relationship, usually you either need to both heal, right? Or get out, right?
Mhm.
So when I'm thinking about a relationship, in order to heal anything, you have to do something different because you're not healing when you're not doing the things that you're doing now, right? Maybe you've been trying 3 different types of, healing techniques, and none of them are working. Well, change what you're doing, right? So just like that type of relationship, if I discover, "Oh my gosh, I'm using time as an excuse." Okay, ooh, that's not a great relationship with time. Let me start by, "Hey, let me not use time as an excuse. Let me every time I think about saying I don't have time, let me reframe that. I'm not choosing to use my time on this right now. You know what? This is something worthy of my time. Let me choose to work on this." So just that simple, you know, deleting the time excuse out of your vocabulary or out of your mindset. I think that's the first step to starting to heal. Realizing that you do have a choice of how you want to spend your time. I know there's some exceptions, right? Somebody's brought up, prison, and I'm like, well, you still get to choose if you want to work out and if you don't, right? Or something like that.
Right.
I don't know. Um, but you do. You have so much more power over how you get to choose and direct those hours than people give themselves credit for. So that would be the first step in healing is let's not use it as an excuse anymore. Let's at least reframe it to give ourselves some accountability. I'm not choosing to use my time like that today.
Yeah, and that phrase in a reframe, I choose, it's one I use a lot in counseling,
Mhm.
especially for people that are burned out, is
Yeah,
it's not a demand, it's a choice you're making. And
right,
that gives you a sense of control over it. And just
right,
words are powerful. And if it's a bunch of demands at work, now you're going to be defensive. Demands are hostile.
for
So
sure.
we always kind of
Yeah,
shift it to, I choose to work on these how I work on them and get through them how I
yeah,
get through them.
right.
And I've had people say that was really helpful, transformative.
That is good. That's good.
You'd brought up the ESTHER framework
Mhm.
earlier, and can you give us a little demo on that? Because maybe just a brief demo on that, or I can be your client, because
Yes.
I certainly have time issues. I think I'm not unique in that respect, but
Yeah. Yeah, and we all do, right? Because we're all in a relationship with it. That's like we're all gonna have those things. So,
yeah.
yeah, so with our goal setting framework, Esther, let's set a goal. Tell me if you feel like you wanna share a real goal, or we can make one up. What would you
Yeah,
like?
I have a project. It's kind of along the lines of coaching, consulting.
Okay.
Um, but I also do a lot of work with highly traumatized people 3 days a week, and
Okay.
from counseling and therapy. So then those 3 days are pretty draining.
Mhm.
After I'm done with that, I don't have a lot of battery life. Then I
Mhm.
have two more days of the week, Thursday and
Mhm.
Friday,
Mhm.
where I do podcasts, and
Okay.
or so I've had this project and I know it's got tremendous potential, but at the same time, half of my Thursday is still kind of coming down from Monday through Wednesday.
Mhm.
And then there's other things, that need to be done.
Yeah.
So there's a part of me that gets really excited about it. And then there's a
Mhm.
part of me that goes, not this week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, so here's the thing. If you say not this week, again, you're gonna continue to say that, right? Not this week, because things keep piling up. So if this is you have to number one, we have to eliminate anything that's getting in your way, right?
Okay.
Of starting this project. Or have you started it a little bit?
Well, definitely started it a little
Okay,
bit.
so for
Hmm.
finishing this project, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if you were to guess, would you say you're 50% complete, 25% complete, 70%? What would you say?
Well, let's just go with 25 to 30%, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
So 25, because I like little
Hmm.
quarters. So you're
25.
25% done. Okay. All right. Can you think of something between now and the finished product that would be a good halfway point? What would make you feel like you were 50% done?
Um, 50 to get to 50%, I suppose, gosh, it really isn't that hard. I think it would just be refining the program
Okay.
and
Okay. Okay.
I'm kind of overwhelmed because I have so many things that I think are so cool that I could implement, that I'm kind of stuck there. And then
Okay.
also, then it's just a matter of the marketing part, which I did sales and marketing for 30 years, so
So
that
you're
part doesn't
working on
concern me.
so you're working on something that will have to be, like marketed.
Put out
Okay.
there, yeah.
Yep. So you've got to finish whatever it is first.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. But you kind of got in your mind something that's going to be 50% done,
Yeah,
right? But then
yeah.
there's a ton of other little things you have to do in between probably,
Mhm.
right? Okay. So like the 50% mark, that would be a milestone. And then all
Okay.
these other little things would be little needle movers, right? So if you think about a goal, right? And before we even eliminate, if you think about a goal, what would make you start? What would make you feel like you're 25% full? complete, feel like you're 50% complete, feel like you're 75 complete, and then what would be the completion. Now, what I'm hearing, which we're not diving into everything with your goal, but what I'm hearing is you're gonna have your goal complete before you're focused on sales and marketing, right? We've got to have, let's just say, I know sometimes you kind of pre-sell things or pre-market things, but for this, scenario, let's talk about how you've got to get this thing done, right? So
Right.
now we're going to eliminate, because that's the letter E of Esther, we're going to eliminate everything that's getting in the way of doing it. So obviously not your podcast, obviously not your therapy sessions, but it might be that your energy is drained, right? So how can we eliminate some of that? That's one of the things that I would talk about. If you're always going to be drained after Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
Hmm. Yeah.
yep, then Thursday is probably not the day to work on it, right?
Sometimes I feel like I can push through on a Thursday,
Yep,
or sometimes
yep,
Thursday's more the day to do the repairs around the house or the
yep. So find
clean
your
the pool,
ideal
whatever.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe your ideal time's Monday morning really early. Maybe. So this is where that customized time strategy comes in.
Hmm.
When are you the highest energy and your mind is typically free of other things? That's the
Certainly, yeah.
pockets. That's the
Mornings
pockets, right?
mornings for me. Mornings are when my brain's really firing.
Yep. Yeah, mine too. So what we're even though we're looking for a time for you to start working on your goal consistently, what we're eliminating is the energy drained, right? We're not eliminating it. It's still going to be there, but we're going to determine that we're not working on our goal during that time, right? So that's
Hmm.
one of the big problems. What are other things that you have to eliminate to move forward?
Yeah. Some time wasters,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Some time
Yeah. Some
wasters.
time sucks.
Sometimes it's like looking at social media, which is I almost make that similar to smoking a cigarette. It's almost
Mhm.
like I'm gonna go out. You see these people
Yeah.
smoking outside their buildings. It's almost
Yeah.
like, okay, I deserve 5 minutes, but
Yeah.
5 minutes is adds up. Five here,
Yeah,
10
it
there.
does. That's a time pocket, and those can
Hmm.
compound too. I mean, I literally built a business in the times that I was riding in my car, like 15-minute commutes, just over and over, right? So, identifying where you have those 5-minute time sucks, that's a big deal. So another thing you can use to help kind of eliminate that social media is maybe you start checking it twice a week. These are just suggestions, right? Twice a
Sure.
week, 30 minutes each time, and then you get your fill and you move on. Doesn't have to be that. Could be every day for a certain, amount of time, but you're eliminating the things that um, can suck your time. So another thing I would say to somebody who might say social media needs to be eliminated while you work on something, right? You can take the icon off your phone. Right. So whatever you need to eliminate out of your brain
Gotcha.
space, all that good stuff.
Hmm.
So, and again, it could be, things that are still working on with in your business, but they're actually not moving the needle forward. Eliminate it, right? So
Hmm.
that's the first process. And then S is setting it. So you're actually setting the goal with that SMART goal framework. Is it very specific? So yours is to finish whatever project. If we were being very specific, you'd tell us, but it's your project. So we're not going to put you on the spot for that. But, maybe it's to finish this project by August 31st at 5 p.m. Be very specific, right?
Gotcha.
Um, yep. And then is it measurable? Yes, because we've said it's going to be 100% complete by, this time and date. Um, it's relative to what you're working on, I'm assuming, right? All
Hmm.
all these things, and we've got the timeline in place. So that's the S is set. T is the timeline, right? So maybe we set the goal for August 31st. That's the timeline. So we're going to reverse engineer everything we need to do to get to that point. So we've had the timeline. You can even take it out on a piece of paper, put it on your calendar. Okay, by this date, this means I've got to do the final run through. This date means I've 50% done because I've completed whatever specifically, right? And you
Hmm.
work your way back from there. So that's the T. Um, H, again, we're acknowledging, hey, this could be hard because I'm intentionally putting my time towards this project instead of these other things maybe I've committed to in the past. I've got to learn to say no to some of those things. And I
Hmm.
acknowledge it's going to be hard. And then what help do I need? Well, maybe I need a coach. Maybe I need a mentor. Maybe I need Chat GPT and some good AI tools and all these things. Maybe I need
Hmm.
coffee with a friend. What do I need, as far as resources, mentorship, all that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the H part, and then the second E is execute. Start working on that project. Start working on those needle movers, and then also evaluate. So, you're a weekend. You're evaluating. How's it going? What worked? What didn't work? Okay, this didn't work. I'm eliminating that. I'm going to put more time towards what did work. Right.
Hmm.
So that's that evaluation part, and then now that we're 100%, we're looking at August 31st and 100% accomplished our goal. You've done it, right? We're going to rest, meaning physical, mental, spiritual, all we just got to rest after we've done that because that was a lot, right? So intentionally resting. And then after you're ready to restart a different project, right? Or restart a goal, um, you're going to review what was I proud of? What did I do well? What would I have changed? How did, my energy level stay up to meet, my goal, my tasks for the day. We're really, really reviewing in order to make our next kind of goal setting framework more efficient, more impactful.
Hmm.
Yep.
And then that next goal setting framework, would that be a different goal or
Yes.
revising
Yep.
different?
Once you've
Yeah.
accomplished your goal and you've rested and you've reflected, what else are you doing? Like
Yeah.
what else are you working on? Now, I don't again, when I get kind of the title the time Nazi, maybe you need to rest 3 weeks. Maybe it's a month. Maybe it's 2 days because it was a real small goal and you're off to your next one, right?
Yeah.
But what I do know is if we, setting goals is just the very beginning. It's the
Hmm.
it's the working through part that gets people.
I think as you were going through those, I could see a lot of things that'll be helpful. And I also think I was kind of doing that, but not recognizing it and then beating myself up on it. So, for example, I wanted to make sure my 3 days with my counseling was full, and they are. So I had to
Yeah.
do a lot on that, but then I wasn't addressing the other goal, and I was finding that was torturing me. And
Yeah.
then so then I started moving the goalposts. Like I had some rough ideas in my head, but I thought, and there's a lot more to it, trust me, than that.
Yeah, oh,
But
yeah. Yeah,
but
yeah.
now I've realized, no, you actually did that on your first one. You secured
Mhm.
that. Now it's time to move on to the other. But I love
Yeah.
that. I love your way of looking at it. So I'm going to Starbucks tomorrow morning and start working on setting a timeline.
Good. I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
Well, and hopefully soon, there might be a little app on the way to be very, very helpful to people working through this ESTHER framework. So,
sounds
you can
like
be
you
on
have
the lookout for
sounds
that.
like you
Yeah.
have a cake in the oven on that one, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
What as we kind of wind down, thank you so much for that information, and I hope people reach out to you. I know I can see where it'll be very helpful. Um, what would you maybe as we wrap up, somebody who feels overwhelmed now, what's something they could start doing today that would help?
Yeah. So I have ADHD and I've dealt with anxiety and overwhelm all my life. And that is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this. Because, kind of going back to what we said earlier, words are so, so powerful. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, the first thing I would suggest you think about is how are you addressing yourself? Are you are you saying that you have so much going on? What are you talking to yourself about in your mind? Are you saying, "Oh my gosh, I have so much. Oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed." Or are you saying, "I have to get this one thing done. And if I get this one thing done, even if it's not perfect, then I'll feel like I've created something for today." I feel like, it may just be survival in that first moment, but you have to pay attention to how you're speaking to yourself internally because if you continue to say, "I'm overwhelmed, I can't do it, I've got so much going on," you will,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah, you will. I think that's so powerful is just changing the way that you speak to yourself. And one tiny thing is still momentum. One tiny thing is still traction. Even if that tiny thing is between, dropping your child off to school and getting to an office, or maybe it's, in the carpool pickup line, or maybe it's, running into Kroger and buying the pork chop for dinner, right? That time, those time pockets are so instrumental in just brainstorming. Like, give yourself some time to rest and relax your brain, because that's when most of the ideas will come, right? So if you're overwhelmed, create some internal space as well. Um, and I know that's hard. Sometimes it's like you said, Jim, stepping out like a smoke break and looking on social media. But maybe this time it's not social media, and maybe this time you're just breathing and bringing yourself back into the space it needs to be. And we forget that we are very unkind to ourselves. So I think, starting to reframe some of the things we say internally is a big deal when it comes to being overwhelmed.
Yeah, that's spot on. I love that. That
Yeah.
reframing things and being nicer to yourself is a
Mhm.
tricky one, but
Yeah.
and I also use the growth mindset part of there's a gal named I think it's Ellie Crum. She did worked on the milkshake study. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, but real quick, these people drank a milkshake that was supposed to be healthy, and they drank one that was supposed to be decadent. They measured them for, I think it's called ghrelin, the tells you you're satiated. And when they thought it was the healthy one, no ghrelin was released. When they thought it was the decadent one, ghrelin was released, and it
Wow.
was the same exact milkshake. But some of her work, she mentioned tell your brain what you need to tell it, because it will go, okay, yep, got that. So I always
Yeah.
tell people, if you did just one little thing today, make sure you tell your brain, hey, we just got stronger. We just moved the needle a
Yes.
little bit.
That's so
So,
good.
and that's
Yep.
tricky. People always go, well, no, I didn't do that. I go, no, stop and tell yourself, tell it, your brain will go, okay, I got
Yeah.
that.
Mentally
So,
check it off the list
yeah.
and give
So,
yourself a pat on the back while you do it. Yeah, for sure. That's
well,
good.
CW, it's been great spending some time with you. Sure appreciate you coming on. And I know this can be really helpful to a lot of people, myself included. And
Thank you.
any last things you'd like to say before we conclude, or anything you'd like to mention?
Yeah, no, I'm just so
Projects coming
grateful.
up or
Yes,
anything
yes,
going
I'm so
on?
grateful. We've got a lot of projects coming. I'm so grateful for the time that you took to speak with me today, Jim, and the invite. I
My
definitely
pleasure.
appreciate that. I do, if you happen to be in the Georgia area, I have a big event on August 20th called Goals Night Out. It's a ladies' event, like Girls Night Out, but it's all about goals. So that's in Barrow County, Georgia. If anybody hears that going in that direction. But yeah, that's it. Just everybody start to evaluate your relationship with time. It's so important. And it'll keep you healthy.
Well, thanks a lot, CW, and maybe we can talk again. I'd love to do that.
Absolutely.
And then we'll have all your links at the end of the podcast. And again, just thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Meet Your Mental Helper. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, you can find them on our guest directory at meetyourmentalhelper.com. You can find their social media links to follow them and also ways to directly contact them. If you would like to be on the podcast, join our Meet Your Mental Helper network. And we have several memberships that support the work we do that allow unknown experts to be seen. Look forward to hearing from you soon and see you at our next podcast.